What's up, y'all? It's your boy Charles. We're checking out Labyrinth by Randall Sullivan. It is the book about the murder of Biggie Smalls and Suge Knight. Really good book, man. Audio book. Y'all can check it out on Audible. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to come back with my reaction.
For Russell Poole, his assignment to find the shooter in the Biggie Smalls slaying was an opportunity to escape the stricture of the Gaines Liga case. A murder investigation, Poole believed, would not be subject to the sort of bureaucratic intrigue that had frustrated his attempt to probe the links between the LAPD and Death Row Records. I guess you could say ignorance was bliss, Poole recalled, at least at the beginning. By the time Poole joined them, homicide detectives from the LAPD's Wilshire Division had spent nearly 1 month building a case that appeared to be headed nowhere in particular. Not that the Wilshire detectives hadn't kept busy. The murder book on the Smalls investigation already was thick with witness interviews, clue notes, and evidence analysis. The curious quality of it all, though, was that the picture that emerged could be at once so detailed and so sketchy. Most of what the LAPD knew about Biggie's murder came from the 10 young men who had been riding with him in the caravan of 3 vehicles that had just left the Vibe magazine party at the Peterson Automotive Museum. Puffy Combs, who had been sitting in the passenger seat of the Suburban just ahead of Biggie's, understood that coming to Los Angeles for that year's Soul Train Awards entailed a certain amount of risk. But Paul Offord, Bad Boy Entertainment's director of security, who had been riding in the trail car right behind Biggie's Suburban, explained to detectives that with Suge Knight in jail, there was a general feeling that the East versus West feud was cooling off. Prior to the shooting, Biggie and Puffy had spent almost a month in Los Angeles without incident. They were in town to promote Biggie's upcoming album, Puffy had explained to the Wilshire detectives, and to take advantage of LA's superior production facilities to shoot and edit several videos that would be released with the album. Also, Biggie saw the trip as a chance to tell California radio listeners that he loved their state and wanted no trouble with anyone out here. At the Soul Train Awards on the evening of Friday, March 7, 1997, Biggie, who had been injured in an auto accident a month earlier, walked on stage to present an award with the aid of the cane he needed to help support his 6'3", 390-pound body. Before he could announce that the winner was R&B singer Toni Braxton, however, Biggie's voice was drowned out by boos from a contingent of Bloods who sat in the balcony throwing West Coast signs at him. "What's up, Cali?" Biggie yelled back, his tone light, yet defiant. The big rapper left the event almost immediately, however, and watched the rest of it on the television set in his suite in the Westwood Marquee. Puffy remained in his seat until the end of the award ceremony, but when he tried to leave the auditorium by a stage door, Combs had been confronted by a Nation of Islam member in a suit and bow tie who accused him of disrespecting our brothers in the East. He and Puffy had both tensed up, Eugene Deal would recall, but then Combs had spotted Louis Farrakhan's son, Mustafa, nearby and called out, "Yo, Mustafa, tell him you and I are cool." When Mustafa Farrakhan nodded, his lieutenant had stepped aside and let Puffy pass without further incident. Biggie and Puffy did not decide until the next afternoon that they would attend the Vibe afterparty on Saturday evening. The party was to be a closed event for music industry executives only, Puffy had been told, so security would not be a problem. The Bad Boy group assembled at the Hollywood Hills home of Andre Harrell, who now was CEO of Motown Records.
Andre Harrell?
Puffy had been staying with his former boss for the past week. He and Biggie and their entourage traveled to the Peterson Museum in 3 separate vehicles. In front was the white Suburban in which Combs rode with his man Kenneth Story at the wheel and 3 bodyguards in the back seat. Next came the gangbanger green Suburban in which Biggie sat up front with his driver, Gregory G. Money Young, while Junior Mafia rapper James Lloyd, Lil Caesar, who had grown up with Biggie in Brooklyn, and Biggie's best friend Damien, D-Rock Butler, sat in the back seat. The trail car was a black Chevy Blazer in which bad boy handyman Lewis, Groovy Love Jones, rode with Offord and an off-duty police officer who was working security for Biggie that night. The scene at the Peterson Museum had been surprisingly mellow, everyone agreed, especially given the complications suggested by the guest list. Among the women in attendance, for example, were Biggie's estranged wife, Faith Evans, Tupac Shakur's former fiancée, Kidada Jones, and Suge Knight's estranged wife, Sharitha. DJ Quick had shown up with 10 treetop Pyrus in tow. while the dozen or so Crips who wangled invitations included Orlando Anderson. Upon arrival, Biggie headed straight for a table in a dark corner, where he remained seated for the entire evening. When the DJ played Biggie's new rap homage to the West Coast, Going Back to Cali, the crowd erupted in cheers, and there was a general feeling that with Suge Knight removed from the scene, peace might be at hand. By midnight, however, the museum was crammed with many more people than it was permitted to contain, and an overwhelming majority were smoking marijuana. At 12:30 a.m., the air was so thick with smoke that an announcer was sent to the microphone to tell the crowd, "Please stop smoking blunts. The fire marshal's going to turn the party out." Biggie, Puffy, and the rest of the Bad Boy contingent headed immediately for the nearest exit, as did many other partygoers who believed they had heard the announcer say the fire department was shutting the party down. Gulping the cool, fresh air outside, Biggie and Puffy waited for valets to deliver their vehicles to the curb of the museum's parking structure, debating whether to hit another party or head back to the Westwood Marquee. Puffy decided they should just go back to the hotel, then climbed into the white Suburban next to Kenneth Story, with his 3 bodyguards in the back of the vehicle. Biggie lifted himself into the passenger seat of the green Suburban next to G-Money, with Lil Caesar and D-Rock in the next row of seats. Just as the vehicle pulled away from the curb, Groovy Love slid into the 3rd row of seats. Paul Offord again rode with the off-duty police officer in the black Chevy Blazer. Biggie's Suburban bore a sticker on one wheel that read, "Think B.I.G." It was a promotion for his new double album, Life After Death, which was playing at deafening volume on the green Suburban sound system as the vehicle turned left out of the parking structure and headed north on Fairfax Avenue. Puffy's Suburban, still in the lead, blew through the amber light at Wilshire Boulevard and was preparing to make a left turn as the light turned red and stopped Biggie's vehicle on the south side of the intersection. A white Toyota Land Cruiser promptly made a U-turn on Fairfax and tried to cut between the green Suburban and the black Blazer that was approaching from the rear. At that moment, a dark-colored sedan pulled up on the green Suburban's right side. The driver, a black male with a fade haircut who wore either a light gray or pale blue suit and a bow tie, looked Biggie in the eye for a moment, then reached across his body with a chrome-plated automatic pistol held in his right hand, braced it against his left forearm, and emptied the gun into the front passenger seat of the Suburban. Clearly the target of the attack, Biggie Smalls had been the only passenger in the green Suburban who was hit by the bullets, which riddled his immense torso. The dark sedan then sped away eastbound on Wilshire, made a left turn on Ogden Drive, and disappeared into the night. The white Land Cruiser made another U-turn and sped away also. The Suburban, in which Puffy Combs rode, slowed nearly to a stop when the driver heard gunshots. Everyone inside ducked their heads. Then someone shouted that Biggie was under attack. Combs jumped out of the vehicle a few moments later and ran across Wilshire to the green Suburban. When he opened the passenger side door, Puffy saw Biggie hunched over the dashboard with his tongue hanging out of his mouth, bleeding through his jacket. When he spoke to Biggie, Puffy told police, his friend just stared back, eyes wide open and scarily blank. The terrified Combs jumped into the Suburban behind Biggie as Kenneth Story pushed G-Money aside and drove the vehicle to the emergency dock of the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, less than 5 minutes away. At the hospital, it took 6 people to lift Biggie onto a gurney. Doctors rushed him into surgery as Combs, Lloyd, Butler, and the others dropped to their knees and prayed. But Biggie was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. Gregory Young and James Lloyd were the only 2 passengers in the green Suburban who said they had gotten a good look at the killer's face. And at the hospital that night, they assisted police in making a composite drawing of the suspect. Both Young and Lloyd had described the assassin's vehicle as a dark green sedan, but police realized that the 4 vapor lights that illuminated the shooting scene could have given a greenish cast to a black car if it was clean and shiny. Kenneth Story told police that 3 separate witnesses had approached him at the hospital to say that the killer had been driving a clean black Chevrolet Impala Supersport. He had seen exactly such a vehicle parked on Fairfax Avenue as he and the rest of the Bad Boy group waited for their vehicles in the Peterson Museum's parking structure, Story said. A Metropolitan Transit Authority driver whose bus had been westbound on Wilshire when the shooting occurred confirmed to police that the shooter's sedan was black, and said he had watched a white SUV speed from the scene after the sedan and make the same left turn on Ogden Drive that it did. Kenneth's story also gave police 4 shell casings that had been given to him by 2 separate witnesses who said they were collected from the shooting scene.
Anyway, y'all, this is Labyrinth, man. They really get really in depth about the whole Biggie Smalls situation. 'Cause I was a teenager when that happened. I think I had just graduated high school when he got shot, and I always wondered how how did everything happen that night? They never really got really in detail about what really happened. So this book, Labyrinth by Randall Sullivan, they really get in depth about what went down with Biggie the night of his assassination. Anyway, let me know what y'all think about this book in the comments. And if y'all want to listen to the rest of it, go to Audible and check it out, or Spotify. Anyway, give me that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it.